Brussels must also answer why this war is not ending. I say this because there's been a bombshell of a revelation. The war began in February last year. It could have ended in March. Russia was ready. Ukraine was ready, but the West was not. So they did not let the war to end. Says who? Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel. He's given a tell-all interview with some very big revelations. Bennett says he brokered a deal in March last year. He says Putin and Zelensky were both ready to make concessions, but guess who killed the deal? The West. They wanted to hammer Putin. This is what Naftali Bennett has said. Now, quick recap. Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022. 8 days later, on the 4th of March, Bennett was in Russia. He was playing mediator, an unlikely but a crucial link between Putin, Zelensky, and the West. Remember, only a few Western leaders met Putin at the time. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett was one of them. He says Putin promised not to kill Zelensky.
So 3 to 4 hours into the meeting, I'm getting into the meeting now. I asked Putin, what's with? Are you going to kill Zelensky? He said, I won't kill Zelensky. Then I said to him, I have to understand that you're giving your word that you won't kill Zelensky. He said, I won't kill Zelensky.
I will not kill Zelensky, said Putin. And that's not all. He was apparently willing to drop a major demand, the disarmament of Ukraine. This was Putin's proposal. What did Bennett do with it? Let's have it from the horse's mouth.
I call Zelensky and say, I came out of a meeting. He's not going to kill you. Zelensky asks, are you sure? I replied, 100%. He won't kill you. 2 hours later, Zelensky went to his office and filmed himself there on his phone. I'm not afraid. Anyways, that was one concession. The other was that he renounced the disarmament of Ukraine.
And what happened after that? Bennett says Ukraine too was ready to make concessions. Zelensky said he will not seek NATO membership. So this was the deal. Putin would back off on two fronts, the disarmament of Ukraine and the threat to kill Zelensky. And in return, Zelensky promised not to pursue a NATO membership for Ukraine. There was scope for an agreement. The war could have ended, but the West did not let that happen. I have a machine-translated transcript of that interview. Listen to what Naftali Bennett said when he discussed the deal with Western leaders. This is what happened, and I'm quoting, each leader has their way. Boris Johnson adopted an aggressive line. Macron and Scholz were more pragmatic. Biden was both. And that's it. I think there was a legitimate decision by the West to keep striking Putin. Anything I did was coordinated down to the last detail with the US, Germany, and France. They, and Bennett means the Western leaders here, they blocked it, and I thought they're wrong. So that's how it all went down. The West wanted to keep striking Putin, so they blocked a legitimate attempt at peace. As long as the Ukrainians were the ones who were dying, as long as they were the ones who were fighting, the West seemed happy with a long-drawn war. And how is that decision panning out? As always, war is a bad idea. Look at what's become of Kiev. There's utter chaos. The government is firing top leaders in the middle of a war. It says a lot about their strategy and their leadership. Yesterday, reports of a major exit emerged. They said Ukraine's defense minister could be replaced. His name is Oleksiy Reznikov. He's a top ally of President Zelensky. He announced his exit on Telegram, but it's not done yet.
When I entered public service for the first time in 2014, I was then the secretary of the Kyiv City Council, and I immediately told everyone that no official is in his chair forever. Therefore, you should always be ready for such a scenario. The decision to be the Minister of Defense or not is made by one person. According to the Constitution, it's the Commander-in-Chief and President of the country, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Zelensky himself has not issued a statement yet. And let me repeat, Ukraine is in the middle of a war. They're talking about a major offensive from Russia. There are reports of Russian reinforcements in eastern Ukraine. At a time like this, who changes their defense minister? The man who's in charge of the entire war effort. Why is he being axed? Because Zelensky does not really have a choice. A series of corruption scandals have hit his government, and Ukraine's defense minister is at the center of this. Procurements for the military are under the lens. More specifically, two deals. One is for military catering, and the other for electric generators. Reports say these procurements happened at an inflated price. The damage has been more than financial. Zelensky's reputation has taken another hit. He is losing the trust of his allies. He must clean up his system or lose aid. And the timing couldn't be worse. The anniversary of the war is round the corner. Reports say Russia is planning a major operation in Donbass. Russian forces could try to seize this entire region. Currently, they control over 20% of the territory. Will Ukraine be able to defend itself? Guess we'll have to wait and see.
Shalom, 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 shalom.
It's time to retrieve all those files you thought.
As always, first I want to give you the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone, our teachers. And shalom to my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers out there that plow in the fields in the name of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And to the hopeful elect, shalom to the hopeful elect brothers and sisters that have been edified by this truth of the scriptures of who we are and who the nations are. So that was the first news article. I wanted to show you how the West, just like he said, he has two horns like a lamb and he speaks as a dragon. They could have done a deal with Putin last year, February, to stop this war, but it was never their intention to stop this war. It was never in their sights to do it. This was always the route it was going to go down. But this is all praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, because they are all doing the will of the Most High, basically. All of these nations are doing the will of the Most High. So that this war was never going to be stopped, because it's all fulfillment of Bible prophecy. But just so you understand, he has two horns like a lamb, America, but he spoke like a dragon. And this is what he's doing behind the scenes. So then we had... this is why I want you to hear this. This was yesterday. Yeah, this was yesterday on Al Jazeera. Inside Story. Very good show. Very good show. Now listen to what the man from Beijing says.
The rift seems to be between the two countries, and the fact that the Blinken trip was happening in the first place, a lot of people said that's already positive, and I think you shared that point of view. So how much of a missed opportunity is it now that he's had to postpone?
It's unfortunate that Blinken is postponing the visit. However, I truly believe he will visit China, because visiting China, engaging with China, with the United States is good, not only just for China. It is good, absolutely, for the United States. And it is a good, positive development for world peace and development. So if Blinken doesn't go to China, we all need to weep. And Americans will also suffer the consequences. If China and the United States do not engage with each other, and if they do not eventually get along with each other, there will be no peace for mankind. So let's do the only responsible thing, that is to promote peace and getting along between China and the United States, rather than that crazy general. Can you believe it? He's not only a general, he's a commander of the mobility force of the US Air Force. How can any general in the United States talk about a war between China and the United States?
Right.
A war between China and the United States will lead to Armageddon. Does he want to destroy Homo sapien?
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
So, a war between China and the United States will lead to what? Armageddon. He said that crazy general, how could that crazy commander general from the US Air Force talk about a war between China and the United States? He said that will be Armageddon. Revelation 16 and 16, right? So let's hear what that crazy general had to say. Don't take my word for it. Let's listen to the general. This is the Air Force general who that Chinese ambassador is referring to. All right. So let's play exactly what the crazy Air Force general said about America and China. Let's listen up.
Sergeant General Jack Keane, former Army Vice Chair of Staff, Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and a Fox News Senior Strategic Analyst. General, it's always great to have you on. We hear a lot of talk about General Mike Minahan saying the U.S. will be at war with China by 2025. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says no. In your case, General, you don't think it's as much about timing as how important it is having an effective military deterrence, which right now we don't have. Fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Trace. I mean, first of all, this general was talking in very blunt, direct language to his subordinates. And what we do in peacetime in all the services is prepare for war. And hopefully, by doing so, we're deterring war. And that's what he was doing. He was making certain his troops understood that war could be around the corner. We have all said the very same thing to our troops at different levels of command during our tenure. But what I think is really going on here, he just came out of the Pacific region. He's very conversant with what is taking place there and the fact that we have lost our military deterrence. It has eroded because of the 9/11 wars and budgets that don't meet the requirements. And he sees that and knows that China does have a military advantage right now. More ships, more planes, and certainly more missiles. And he doesn't certainly want them to take advantage of that, but it's possible they could. It's not knowable what's going on in President Xi's mind, whether it's a year, 2 years, or 5 years from now. But what is knowable is that our military deterrence is not what it should be. And I believe that is where the general's coming from, because he knows that we're vulnerable and we have got to fix it.
So what's the remedy? I mean, that's the whole thing, General. What's the remedy to get stronger in the Pacific region if that's the necessity here? And how long will it take? Is it a money issue? Is it something else?
It's partially money, but it's also a commitment. One, we have to upgun Taiwan. We've got a $19 billion backlog of equipment going to Taiwan that they have paid for. And the backlog is years. The Congress has got to get into this and roll their sleeves up and fix the foreign military sales system with a sense of urgency. And certainly we have to do training with Taiwan in the way that Jennifer just mentioned we're doing with South Korea. We don't do much of any of that with Taiwan. We self-deter ourselves because we don't want to provoke the Chinese. And second thing was you got to move our forces, more forces into the region. Yes, more planes. Yes, more ships and more missiles. We've got to deploy them and make certain that China understands that there is an effective deterrent. And the only way that's going to happen is their generals will look at it and say, well, the cost is too great for us to start a war over Taiwan here with the United States because we don't know what the outcome will be. That is the kind of answer we want.
I just quickly, 15 seconds, General, I want to put this on the screen. This is from the Chinese Foreign Ministry concerning Kevin McCarthy's upcoming trip. He says China opposes any form of official interaction between its Taiwan region and countries having diplomatic ties with China. We hope U.S. lawmakers will abide by the one China principle. What do you think of that very quickly? I mean, they said kind of the same thing when Nancy Pelosi went.
We should visit Taiwan and support them, moral support, political support that a political leader would provide. But look at the Secretary of Defense should go. He doesn't. The Secretary of State should go on his own trip. He doesn't. The chairman doesn't go. The Indo-Pacific commander doesn't go. We self-deter ourselves from this because we don't want to provoke China. We've got to stop cuddling this issue and make certain we're providing the support to Taiwan that they need.
Yeah. General, great to see you. Thank you, sir.
Well, that's the crazy general that the Chinese ambassador was speaking about, all right? The American general. So, there's nothing that they can do to deter what's coming, all right? As we all know. What I should be saying, we all should know by now. So when we go to Revelation 13 and we talk about the beast, I'm just going to go to the beginning here, right? Revelations 13 and 1, right? And I stood upon the sand of the sea and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, right? Which is the Roman Empire, having 7 heads and 10 horns, right? The 7 heads are, as we know, the 7 nations, and the 10 horns represents the European Union. Let's grab my Bible. Just grab my scriptures. I like to have my Bible in front of me when I'm reading these. Even though I'm reading from the screen, I like to read it from my Bible. I've got this affiliation of holding my Bible in my hand. So, what we are seeing here is the beast. This reincarnation of this beast. These 7 heads that the Bible speaks of, the 10 horns, the European Union, right? And upon his horns were 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. So, as you know, the leopard represents the Greek Empire, all right? Alexander the Great, beast going back to the Roman. This is the reincarnation of the Roman Empire and has parts of the Greek Empire as part of this. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. That's talking about the Russians, because it's the Russians that's going to take down this beast and this leopard, all right? Because remember, how's the best suited to take someone down to the ground? You grab them by the legs. You grab them by the legs and you pull them down to the ground. All right. If you grab somebody, you wrap your arms around their legs, around their knee, and you pull them, they go straight to the ground. This is what this bear is going to do. The bear is Russia. It's going to take down the beast and the leopard. And his mouth, as the mouth of the lion, representing the British, the United Kingdom, which is also part of this, in a sense, part of this beast and this leopard, because they're all part of NATO. They're all NATO members, right? And remember, the beast, as we say before, NATO is made up of Edomite nations. The head of NATO is America, and these Edomite nations, their whole system is based on the fourth beast, the Roman Empire, all right? The whole system of NATO and these European Edomite empires is based on the Roman Empire, with bits of the Greek, but mainly on the Roman Empire. So NATO is the power for the beast, with America at its helm. So he had a mouth as a mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power. So the dragon is what? The Roman Empire. As I said, the beast represents NATO. It's the fourth beast. The fourth beast is the reincarnation of the Roman Empire. The dragon that gave him his power, the dragon is talking about the Roman Empire. And you could even say it's talking about Esau, because the dragon is, signified as red in the Bible. I think it's Revelation 20, it talks about the red dragon. But the dragon and its power, that's where it gets its power from. Everything that this beast is based on comes from the ancient Roman Empire. The head of this beast is America. So it gets its power from that old system that is built on today, the ancient Roman Empire. So the dragon gave him his power, all right? And his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, the ancient Roman Empire, and his deadly wound was healed. His deadly wound was healed. That is the beast today, the Roman Empire, the reincarnation. His deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So, who is this beast today? This beast basically is the NATO alliance with America at its head. Literally, all of these NATO members are European nations, except for Canada and America. So the whole world is wondered after this beast. So this is why we see this. And this is why I said, when it talks about the when it talks about we'll get to it, and we'll get to it. It says, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast. They worship Esau, Edom, this so-called white man. They worship him and his system. They worship NATO because of its military power, and the Edomite nations that all make up NATO. They worship this reincarnation of this Roman Empire, this whole system. Who is like unto the beast, and who's able to make war with the beast, right? With him. So, who's able to make war with him? It's going to be the Russians, because the Russians are not part of the beast. It's the Russians that the Most High is going to use. So this is why when we heard what, where is it? It was this one here. Hold on. Was it this one here? So when we heard what the reporter was saying here, that Naftali Bennett, the ex-Israeli Prime Minister, where is he? This guy here, when she was speaking, this is why this is breaking news, right? This came out today, right? That the shocking revelations that he was revealing is that he had the meeting with Putin at the beginning of the war, before the war started, and he came to an agreement with Putin and with Zelensky, with the Russians and the Ukrainians, to put an end to the war, and all of the region that the Russians had already annexed out of Ukraine, they were going to keep. Putin said he was no longer going to assassinate Zelensky, and that he would no longer require Ukraine to demilitarize itself, but it could not be a member of NATO. So this guy here, you see these, let me tell you something about these Israelis, right? I've said this before and I say it again. These Israelis know Bible prophecy is true. These Israelis know that Bible prophecy is true. They're not under any doubt. And I said this, and I remember when this guy, I remember clearly when the Israeli prime minister went to meet the Russians, because I said, look, this guy knows, they know, these top men in Israel that run the country, the MPs, the politicians, the philosophers, even those that they're so-called rabbis and that, you know, they're so-called top rabbis, they know the Bible is true. So they know that Israel is prophesizing Bible prophecy to be attacked by Gog and Magog. They know that the land that Russia's in today was previously known as the land of Gog and Magog, previously known as the land of the Medes, was considered like a no man's land. They know Russia's in the Bible. They know the word chief, prince of Meshesh and Tubal. They know the word chief means head and it signifies Russia. They know that. They know what the Hebrew is. These guys are not top politicians and philosophers and the rest of it, are not studying the scriptures. So I remember this clearly when this ex-Israeli prime minister, last year, February, before the war kicked off, I remember when he went to Russia to try to get a peace negotiation deal between the Russians and the Ukrainians, right? To stop the whole escalation of the war and so forth. I remember it clearly. And I remember, I think I even did a video back then. I might have to look it up. I remember doing a video back then to say the reason why the Israeli prime minister's gone to Russia is because they think they can stop Bible prophecy. They know Ezekiel 38 was coming to pass in front of their eyes. They know Ezekiel chapter 38 from verses 1 to 4 was unfolding in front of their eyes. So they believed that somehow they could stop Bible prophecy. So he went there to try to get a deal, and he struck a deal. He struck a deal. He got the Russians to say they won't invade. He won't kill Zelensky. He'll keep the parts of the Donbass, Odessa, the Crimea, Lugansk, the different regions of Ukraine that the Russians took over. He'll keep that. Putin was going to keep that. Ukraine didn't need to demilitarize. And he wasn't going to assassinate Zelensky no more. So he struck a deal. And when he came back and brought it to the Americans, what did the Americans say? They said they're not having nothing to do with it. Listen again. This is what they said. He struck a deal. But listen. Oh, sorry. Let me take off this mute. It's on mute.
He said, I won't kill Zelensky. Then I said to him, I have to understand that you're giving your word that you won't kill Zelensky. He said, I won't kill Zelensky.
I will not kill Zelensky, said Putin. And that's not all. He was apparently willing to drop a major demand, the disarmament of Ukraine. This was Putin's proposal. What did Bennett do with it? Let's have it from the horse's mouth.
I call Zelensky and say, I came out of a meeting. He's not going to kill you. Zelensky asks, are you sure? I replied, 100%. He won't kill you. 2 hours later, Zelensky went to his office and filmed himself there on his phone. I'm not afraid. Anyways, that was one concession. The other was that he renounced the disarmament of Ukraine.
And what happened after that? Bennett says Ukraine too was ready to make concessions. Zelensky said he will not seek NATO membership. So this was the deal. Putin would back off on two fronts, the disarmament of Ukraine and the threat to kill Zelensky. And in return, Zelensky promised not to pursue a NATO membership for Ukraine. There was scope for an agreement. The war could have ended, but the West did not let that happen. I have a machine-translated transcript of that interview. Listen to what Naftali Bennett said when he discussed the deal with Western leaders. This is what happened, and I'm quoting, "Each leader has their way. Boris Johnson adopted an aggressive line. Macron and Scholz were more pragmatic. Biden was both." And that's it. I think there was a legitimate decision by the West to keep striking Putin. Anything I did was coordinated down to the last detail with the US, Germany, and France. They, and Bennett means the Western leaders here, they blocked it, and I thought they're wrong.
There you go. They blocked it, the West blocked it, and he thought they were wrong. Well, the reason why the West blocked it, because, like we said, this is all Bible prophecy, and I understand why this man went out there. Because he knows, and the heads of Israel know, their rabbis know that the Bible prophecy has to be fulfilled. But somehow, they thought they could either delay it, put it on the back burner, or divert prophecy. They can't change prophecy. But he made the deal. But the West blocked it. They blocked it. And he said he thought they were wrong, right? He says anything he did, he had to coordinate it down to the last detail with who? With the US, the head of the beast, right? Which is the lamb that spoke as a dragon. That's America, the US. Germany and France are fellow members of the beast, fellow members of NATO, fellow members of the 10 horns. The US is the country that speaks as a dragon. The US is the country where the Bible says, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So when it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, right? That's it there. This is the reincarnation of the 4th beast. That's the strength. So my point is, the Lord's prophecies have to be fulfilled. And I know that's why this man went out there last year, February. He did this interview. This interview was done on the 3rd of February, about 5 days ago, where he's making the world know that he struck a deal, but the West blocked it. Why? Because prophecy has to be fulfilled. Prophecy has to be fulfilled. So when we go back to Revelation 13, it says, and they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast. Right? And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? That's NATO. The head of NATO is America. They worship the dragon. The dragon is the Roman Empire. The beast is the reincarnation of the Roman Empire. The head of the beast is who? America. Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. That's America. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months, which signifies 3.5 years, which is symbolic for the 350 years of what we call chattel slavery of the children of Israel. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High to blaspheme his name. And that's what he did when he took the children of Israel and caused them to believe in other gods and worship white Jesus. And they're blaspheming his name. And his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Like I said, the 3 and 2, the 40 and 2 months signifies 3.5 years, which is symbolic for 350 years of slavery. He made war with the saints when he came to the Americas. When the Europeans, the Edomites, came to the Americas, they made war with the saints. They made war with the saints when they took them from the west coast of Africa and brought them to the Americas. And to overcome them, he overcome them. Hence, it's known as the United States of America. They call you Americans and every other name that they named you. And power was given to him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. And this is why we pray that our names are written in the book of life, right? Which is salvation. Hence, this goes into the mark of the beast. Further down, it talks about the mark of the beast, the microchip, so forth and so on. But if we just jump down to here, this is where I want to come to. This is what today's edification is based on. The beast from earth. The beast is the Roman Empire. The reincarnation of the Roman Empire is the NATO alliance with America at the top of that NATO alliance. America is the head. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had what? 2 horns like a lamb. That's America. He's the reincarnation of the 4th beast, whose deadly wound was healed. The 2 horns like a lamb represents its 2-party system. It goes back to the Roman Empire, the patricians, the plebeians and the patricians, right? The Romans had a 2-party system. I'll bring it up here. Romans, political system. You had the plebeians and the patricians, I believe. It shows you here. Let me see if I can write it in. Plebeians. So, the term plebeian refers to all free Roman citizens who were not members of the patricians. Yeah, the senatorial or the equestrian classes, which they were part of the patrician. The senatorial and the equestrian classes was part of the patricians. So you had 2-party system. Plebeians were average working citizens of Rome. Who does that remind you of? The Democrats. They were who you would consider the plebeians today. In England, we would say the Labour Party. Across Europe, they referred to them as the left. That's who the plebeians would be today. They are the farmers, bakers, builders, craftsmen who worked hard to support their families and pay their taxes. That's definitely the plebeians. The patricians were the aristocrats, are the rich people, are the right wingers. You know, those that are have more fluent jobs, have a very white supremacist idea of society. And don't get me wrong, don't think for a second that the left don't think the same. This is the left is better about going about their white supremacy, whereas the right just does it in your face. As we always say, they're 2 sides of the same coin. So the system that they have today is based on this 2-party system with the plebeians and the patricians. All right? It says, who was a political group in Rome? Okay, so it's got his name there. So that's what it was. So that's what we have today. That's the 2-party system. So when it says there, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, that's America. The 2 horns are symbolic for the 2-party system that goes back to the ancient Roman Empire. And he spake as a dragon. That's America. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, which is talking about Rome. When it says the first beast means the 4th beast whose deadly wound was healed. He exercises all the power of the Roman Empire, America, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, the Roman Empire system, whose deadly wound was healed. So, my point is, this prophecy had to be, this prophecy here, Ezekiel 38, regarding the 4th beast. This is why that man went to Russia at the beginning of last year when the war just started. Right? But he was never going to stop the fulfillment of the prophecy about Gog and his future invasion of Israel. This is why he went. Don't think for a second these Israelis, these top elites, super elites, they're top rabbis, aristocrats, philosophers, don't know that Ezekiel 38 was unfolding in front of their eyes. So the reason why, where is he? The reason why he went to Russia last year, February, when the war started, is because they think they could stop the fulfillment of Ezekiel 38. Because they know Ezekiel 38 it's got to be fulfilled. But that's what they thought they could stop. So now he's coming out and making you know that it was the West that blocked it. So yeah, the West blocked it. Because why? Because the Most High put the Spirit on them to block it. Because his prophecy had to be fulfilled. This man was never going to be allowed to stop what was going on in Ukraine, even though he struck a deal between the two sides and got them to agree. The Most High, Yahweh, was never going to allow that agreement to go through. So yes, the West blocked it. Why? Because the Most High put the Spirit on these Western leaders to block it. Why? Because Ezekiel 38 has to be fulfilled. And they was witnessing that. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince. The word chief goes back to the word Ras, which, as we know, the word chief, the chief prince, which means head, goes back to the word Rosh. Rosh. Edification.
Strong's H, 7218. Ramath Negev. Ramath Negev. Second entry. Rosh. Rosh.
And if we go to, where is it? I want to go to. Let's go. Let's say Rosh. Rosh, make sure I spell it right. Rosh. Go to the word Rosh. Here, same word. And we've shown you this before.
Strong's H, 7220. Rosh. Rosh.
Means head. The head prince, same word there. Rosh. Means head, top, summit, upper part, chief, total sum, height, front, beginning. But it's head, so the head chief prince, Rosh. See, same word. Rosh. Same word. But here, Strong's H7220, Rosh, tells you that the word in Ezekiel 38 verse 2, which is what we're reading here, it has a different Strong's H7218. So here we're reading Ezekiel. Let's just so you can see once again. Ezekiel 38 verse 2, the word chief here, the word Rosh, oops, H7218 here. Here it's H7220 Strong's, but it tells you here, this Rosh in Genesis 48, 46 and 2 is talking about Ezekiel 38 and 2 in terms of what it means, what they know what it means. Verses 2 and 3 and Ezekiel 39 verse 1. Of a northern nation mentioned with Tubal and Meshesh, of a northern nation mentioned with Tubal and Meshesh, right? As we can see, the word chief we're looking at here, which means Rosh. Undoubtedly, the Russians. Undoubtedly, undoubtedly the Russians. So there's nothing that he could have done to have stopped what's coming, because Ezekiel 38, verse 1 to 4 was being fulfilled in front of his eyes. So now it's all coming out. So we go back to Ezekiel when it says the chief prince, that's the Rosh prince, the Russian prince of Meshesh and Tubal, prophesies against him and say, thus says the Lord Power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshesh and Tubal. Because the Most High is not for the Edomites in Russia, he's against them, but he's got to use them. So him trying to get that agreement last year was never going to happen. Even though he got them both to agree, both sides, it was never going to be fulfilled, because the Lord's work, the Lord's prophecies have to be fulfilled. So now a year later, he's coming out and saying, look, man, the reason why the world's in this shit is because the West blocked a peace deal. The devil, the beast, blocked the deal. America spoke as a dragon and said, no, mate, we're not having this. They blocked it. I mean, you need to go back there and tell them that it's not going to happen. Because the Lord needed this to happen. And this is what we see we continue to witness in Ukraine. And I will turn thee back, Russia, and put hooks in thy jaws, Russia, and I will bring thee forth, the Russian army, and all thine army, the Russian army, horses and horsemen, all of their armored vehicles, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, all of their men, even a great company with bucklers and shields. We saw them after the first 200,000 soldiers that they sent in. They did a recruiting thing in Russia and recruited another 300,000 soldiers to join up to fight the battle. So Russia has put in 500,000 soldiers to fight the battle in Ukraine. That's the great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And then eventually, we know the Persia, who is the Iranians, are helping them right now. We know that for a fact. We know the Russians are helping the Ethiopians to quell. He helped them quell the uprising with the Tigray people. So Ethiopia supports the Russian cause. The Persians, the Iranians are providing them with the drones to fight against the Ukrainians. And Libya, Russia's been helping, I forget that general's name in Libya, in the south of Libya, with them. All of them with shield and helmet, weapons. Like I said, the Iranians have been providing the weapons for the Russians to fight this war. Goma and all his bands, all right? The Turks, as we know, Turkey is trying to do, like negotiate deals between the West and Russia, but Turkey refused to condone the war. Turkey has been helping the Russians sell their grain and their oil. They've been kind of like the intermediary, the mediator between the Russians and the West, and they refuse to condone them. Turkey is not allowing Finland and Sweden to join NATO because Turkey is still upset with the fact that the Swedes are harboring what the Turks consider terrorists from the PKK. The House of Togomar, the ex-Soviet Union states, which are all on the Russian side, they have a, what do they call it? UIC something. What's the Russia, is it called Russia's alliance? What's it called? They have an alliance countries. What's it called? They have just like NATO, they have their own alliance. Here it is. CSTO, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, is an intergovernmental military alliance in Eurasia consisting of 6 post-Soviet states: Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Tajikistan, right? That's the House of Togomar. Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. That's the house. Where is it? When it says here, the House of Togomar, those are those ex-Soviet Union states of the North Quarters. From the north, and all his bands and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And after many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. Right? These are the latter years now. The land that is brought back from the sword is America, and is gathered out of many people. That's why America is referred to as the melting pot, because it's gathered out of many people. It's called the melting pot, America, because of all of the different nations. Melting pot, the melting pot. Let's see what it comes up with, right? Because they're going to give me a recipe for my mum's soup. It actually did come up with a restaurant there. There it is. The melting pot is a monocultural metaphor for a heterogeneous society becoming more homogeneous, right? More homogeneous. The different elements melting together with a common culture. An alternative being a homogeneous society becoming more heterogeneous through the influx of foreign elements with different cultures, backgrounds, different. Hold on. Sorry. All right. It says it through the influx of foreign elements with different cultural backgrounds possessing the potential to create disharmony within the previous culture. It can also create a harmonious hybridized society known as a cultural amalgamation. Historically, it is often used to describe the cultural integration of immigrants to where? To the United States of America. That's the melting pot. Because It's a monocultural metaphor for a heterogeneous society becoming more homogeneous, different elements melting together with a common culture, which is Americanization. Let's go back. So when it says here, where was we? Down here. It says here, and thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, America, and is gathered out of many people. That's America, the melting pot. Against the mountains of Israel. It's going to come up against the actual governments of Israel, all right? Because America is going to be defending Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands, all of these armies that are going to come together with the Russians. And the Chinese are going to be on their side as well, and North Korea. And many people with thee. Thus says the Lord power. It shall also come to pass that at the same time, when they're down in the war of Armageddon, shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, the United States of America. That's the land of unwalled villages. All right? It always likes to start a war that's far from its border. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely. That's America. All of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates. To do what? To take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited. That's America. Was once a desolate places. Now it's inhabited with pure cities, skyscrapers, and everything else that comes with these cities. And upon the people that are gathered, what? Out of the nations. And upon a people that are gathered out of the nations. What place is that? That's the melting pot. That's this monocultural metaphor for heterogeneous society becoming more homogeneous. Historically, it is often used to describe the cultural integration of immigrants of where? The United States of America. That's the melting pot. The melting together metaphor was in use by the 1780s. The exact term melting pot came into the general usage in the United States after it was used as a metaphor describing a fusion of nationalities, cultures, ethnicities in 1908 play for the same name. This is the melting pot. Let's go back to Ezekiel. So when it says there to take a spoil from where? America. To take a prey. America's going to be able to pray for the Russians. The general that says that they don't reckon Russia's got ICBMs, you're going to find out. To turn thine hand upon the desolate places. It was once desolate, now it's built up of cities, underground, skyscrapers, roads, cars, shopping malls, housing estates, everything you can think of that are now inhabited. That's America. And upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, America, the melting pot, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. That's where Russia's coming up against. And this is why, you see, it's going to start down in the Middle East. All right? It's going to start down here in the Middle East, in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, before it ends up in America. And this is why it's referred to, and we're going to finish here. This is why it's referred to. This is what he was trying to stop. Wait, whoops. This is what he was basically trying to stop. Revelation 16 and 16. And he gathered them together, all of the nations, into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. The word Armageddon, Ha, for mountain, Giddon, troops, mountain of troops. All right? That's what the word stands for. He's gathered them together in a place called Armageddon, Revelation 16 and 16. All for education purposes. Armageddon. It's like there's a word they call it, it's like a two where you break up two words. So if you go here, see it says here, mountain, that should be the word ha in the Hebrew. Yeah. See?
Strong's
mountain,
H
hill,
2022.
mountain, mount.
Hair.
And the second part of that word, Megiddo or Giddon, If we go to the root of it, it says place of crowds. But if you go to the root, you'll see it'll tell you of Gideon. Penetrate. There you go. It says to gather crowds, to gather in troops or crowds. That's what the word Harmageddon means, mountain of troops. So we go back to Revelation 16 and 16. It says, and he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Harmageddon, which is mountain of troops, which is where ultimately this is the place, right? I know I said we're going to finish there, but we are going to finish there. I got to do where the Spirit takes me. The Lord says, I got to show you. I got to show you. I will gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of where? Jehoshaphat, Yahweh's judgment, Yahwadah, the valley of Yahweh's judgment, or where Yahweh's going to judge, which is the war of Armageddon, where the mountain of troops are going to be. And will plead with them there for my people, the true children of Israel, and for my heritage Israel, the true Israelites, whom have been scattered amongst the nations and parted my land. The land has been parted between the Israelis and the Arabs, between the Edomites and the Ishmaelites. The Lord's people have been scattered to the four corners of the world amongst the other nations, but predominantly in the Americas. So that's where it's all going, family. So there's nothing he can do to stop what's coming. Nothing. Yeah, Armenia. Shalom, beloved brother James. Amawadabad. Armenia is mentioned in the scriptures as part of the Russian alliance. Yeah. They're going to be part of the house of Togomar. As I was actually showing that. I don't know if you saw that. I was actually showing the Russian alliance here. See, Armenia, what you just mentioned, brother? They're part of the CSTO, the Collective Security Treaty Organization. It's an intergovernmental military alliance in Eurasia consisting of 6 post-Soviet states. Armenia is one of them, just like you said. Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Tajikistan. That's the house of Togomar from the North Country. So when we went back here, and it says Goma, Turkey, and all his bands, and the house of Togomar. That's where Armenia is part of this house of Togomar, of the North Quarters. Those are the ex-Soviet Union states that make up the CSTO, the Collective Security Treaty Organization. This is the house of Togomar. So yeah, you're absolutely right, my brother. Let's grab this one here. Jeremiah, we'll shut it down with Amoy the Bud's precept he put here. It says, set you up a standard in the land. Blow the trumpet among the nations. Prepare the nations against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Arat, yeah, which is Armenia. That's right. I understand now why you were saying Armenia. The kingdoms of Arat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. Appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. So it's listed as Mini. Let's quickly bring it up. Since you got it there, let's quickly bring it up. Mini. We was in just Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 51 and 20, 26, 27. Let's quickly bring it up for edification. Since the brothers brought it up, let's bring it up. The kingdoms of Mini. Let's go to Mini. Hold on. Arat. Of Arat. There you go. Just like what the brother says. A region in Armenia. Mini. Right? They're part of the alliance. There is Armenia. They make up the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CTSO. So they're mentioned by name in, let's go back to it, Jeremiah 51 and 28. Mini, a region in Armenia. They're also part of the House of Togomar. That's the CSTO. That's the House of Togomar, the ex-Soviet Union states. So, as the brother said, as you can see, there's no peace, mate. There's nothing that you could have done back then or do now. Everything's got to be fulfilled. So, we're going to call it a day there, nearly on the hour mark. As I always say, I pray you're edified by today's edification. Russia, China, and America. It's beautiful. We're getting there. We're getting there. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, America, and he spoke like a dragon. Spoke like the Roman Empire. That's the dragon. As always, Kal Halal, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, our elders and our teachers. Shalom to my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers out there who have been teaching this truth in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. And shalom to the hopeful elect brothers and sisters who have truly been edified by the truth of the scriptures of who we are, who the nations are, and what's to become of the nations and the hopeful elect. Shalom, shalom, shalom. As I always like to say, keep praying, keep safe, and hold on to this truth. Hold on to this truth, because we're nearly there, family. We're nearly there. So shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises, all praises. And shalom, beloved brother, Amawadabad, as always. And GMS Hawaii, shalom, my beloved brother. All praises, shalom to my fellow GMS brothers out there that are plowing the fields.